Right, there we are. So I want to talk a little bit more about the practice of mindfulness and particular aspect of it, tuning into the senses. Um, it's really the way that we become aware and we practice present moment awareness is through the senses by taking in information. And the senses are kind of like open windows or doorways through which the whole world is arriving in our experience: sights, sounds, touch, smell, taste. All these senses allow us to take in direct experience, which is at the heart of mindfulness. It's not reflecting back or projecting ahead, it's taking in what's actually showing up in this moment. And awareness is not something that we actually make happen or manufacture, it's already here. What's needed on our part is simply to turn towards our sensory experience so that we can take in whatever is actually happening. I mentioned the recordings. There is actually a recording because we've talked about the senses before. And so I looked it up when last time we talked about that, we being me, but on May 28th. So if that's something you want to go back and look at, you could find that on the YouTube page. Um, so in that earlier session on the senses, I talked a little bit about the kind of the familiar senses of sight, smell, taste, touch, hearing. And I mentioned there that all these familiar senses also have these kind of more formal names for them. For instance, hearing is um, referred to as audioception, and touch is tactioception. And the reason I mention that is because that common root throughout all the senses, this ception part, I think is it's informative to kind of uh, understand what that means. Ception. It means the translation of that word means to take in or to receive, and that's a good reminder for us that a lot of our practice is a receptive practice, tuning in and seeing what is showing up and receiving that. So today I'd like to talk about perhaps, I don't know, a lesser known sense or one that we maybe don't use quite as much, and that's called proprioception. Proprioception is the body's ability to sense its own position and its movement and its balance without relying on other external cues like sight or sound. It's sometimes, because of that, it's called the sixth sense, traditional five, and then the sixth sense, because it helps us to know where we are in time and space. And so that's how we're able to walk without having to watch our feet as we walk, or we can touch our nose without seeing our nose or the back of our head. This sense, this proprioceptive sense, has these, it comes from having specialized kind of receptors in our muscles and our joints and our tendons. And they're constantly sending information to the brain about body position and body movement. So this is going on all the time. And again, it's just really up to us. The invitation is to turn towards that with our attention and tuning in. And in so doing, we become more aware of our, not just our physical movements, but our body in general. And mindfulness, a lot of times we talk about, sitting and then what shows up, what thoughts and what emotions and all. But sometimes we forget that mindfulness is an embodied presence. It's not just kind of being in our head, even though it's called mindfulness. So by engaging the body in awareness, we're practicing the kind of fullness of mindfulness and developing a greater sense of ourselves in this time and space in this moment. I think it's also important when we start to tune into the body that we do so remembering that this is non-judgmental awareness. And it's essential that we notice the body and its orientation, time and space, and doing so with the utmost care, without getting caught up in that which we're noticing, because it can be challenging to pay attention to the body, especially when it's uncomfortable or in pain, or we're not particularly happy with where our body is at this time. So it's critical that the awareness be a non-judgmental awareness. That's the key. And also during this time of intentional paying attention, awareness, it's important to not uh, have the tendency to kind of rush in and fix or evaluate whatever it is that we're noticing. This kind of awareness, cultivating this kind of awareness, this proprioceptive awareness, it actually, in doing so, and we cultivate it and actively, intentionally work with that, it strengthens the nervous system's ability to notice and also to regulate. This non-judgmental awareness has us not reacting to what we notice, and so it helps to regulate the nervous system. And in that way, by just noticing without having to fix or change or react, it allows us to kind of be free of that rumination that sometimes happens when we're hyper focused. In his book, The Healing Power of Mindfulness, A New Way of Being, Jon Kabat-Zinn says, when awareness embraces the senses, it enlivens them. He says, we have all felt that at times, those moments of extraordinary vividness when we're paying attention. In the case of proprioception, when we truly give ourselves over to listening to the body in a disciplined and loving way, and we persevere at it for days, weeks, months, and years as a discipline and as a love affair in and of itself, then he says, even if we don't hear much at first, there is no telling what might occur. But one thing is sure, as best it can, the body is listening back and responding in its own mysterious and profoundly enlivening and illuminating ways. And Jon Kabat-Zinn is suggesting here that there's a dynamic that emerges when we pay close, non-judgmental attention to the body, and that is that the body responds. And you might notice that too in a one period of sitting or walking meditation, that the body is shifting as we bring our attention to it. And there are practices within mindfulness where we're engaging the body in stillness, and also practices when we're engaging it while it's moving. And so today I'd like to um, introduce or bring us into a meditation that cultivates awareness of the body while seated for a period of time, brief period of time. And then we'll go directly into a period of walking meditation to engage the awareness through proprioception of the body while it's in motion. And one note there that if you're not in a place where you can walk, or you're not comfortable today getting up and moving around, then you could sit through that period as well and still be aware of the body. Um, but we'll try this dynamic of a kind of sit, walk, and then return to sitting practice. So let's do so by first really tuning into the body, sitting here and settling into that, upright but relaxed, feeling the ground beneath the feet and other touch points in the body, whether you're sitting in a chair or on the floor or lying down. And whatever that is, whatever position that is, wherever you are, just noticing the posture and your own capacity to balance, even if that's challenged right now for a variety of reasons. But that there's some sense of balance. And we might become aware of the distribution of weight throughout the body. The sensations of air on the skin of the body, sensations of where clothing is making contact with the skin, and also attending to the subtle kinds of shifts that keep you upright or keep you in a lying down position. And finally, noticing the rising and falling of the breath and the movement that occurs in the body as we breathe. And you can close your eyes if you haven't done so already, or just lower your gaze down so that there's a quieting, a softening. And as the body comes to relative stillness, maybe the breathing is a bit more pronounced, that we notice that movement in the body. The breath constantly moving in and out, some 25,000 times a day. And with awareness, we can realize that breathing in, I know that I'm breathing in. Breathing out, I know that I'm breathing out. And in that knowing, in that awareness, I am here dwelling in this present moment, this breath. And when the mind wanders, which it will, just bring it back to the sensation, awareness of the sensation of sitting here, breathing. And now I invite you to kind of seamlessly move into a short period of walking meditation. And just as a reminder, or if you haven't done this before, walking, it's the same practice as sitting. It's just that we're moving during it. So generally speaking, we walk just in a straight line back and forth, a few feet, turn around, maybe 6, 10 feet, turn around, pause, and then walk in the other direction, get to the end of the lane, pause, turn around, and move back and forth so that we're not trying to get somewhere. We're not using walking in that functional way, practical way of getting from point A to point B. And in walking meditation, we notice that being upright and that movement. And when the mind wanders, we come back to those sensations of walking. And we might do so informed by the reality that these muscles and joints and tendons are all responding to that movement in our system and giving feedback so that we can walk in this way. So let's do that now. And like I said, if you'd rather sit through that, then you can just remain seated. And I'll call us back to the seated position altogether in a few moments. If you've been walking now, just kind of seamlessly returning to a seated position. And we'll return to settling into this seated position, which is more about the body in stillness or relative stillness. And if you've been sitting the whole time, then just kind of checking in and re-upping on that commitment to sit with awareness of the body. And to close our practice time, let's consider these few words from Kabir, the 15th century mystical poet and Hindu saint. Kabir says, "Be strong then, and enter into your own body. There you have a solid place for your feet. Think about it carefully. Don't go off somewhere else. Just throw away all thoughts of imaginary things and stand firm in that which you are." Thank you, all of you, for being here. Those of you that are here right now and those who may join us at another time through the recordings. It's wonderful to come together as a community and practice together. We need that. It also gives me an opportunity for a few short commercials. One of which is that we have our in-person Taste of Mindfulness this coming Sunday, and there's a couple of seats open still at the beautiful Ignatius House Retreat Center, where you're free to come and join us for just a little taste of mindfulness, but in person. It's 2.5 hours, kind of introduction to mindfulness. So you can find that on the website. Also, we do have a couple of courses coming up in the fall, so you might want to check that out. Tyona Azilio, who was one of our guest teachers a few weeks back, she and I will be co-teaching a class virtually, and then one of our other teachers, Rachel Abraham, is teaching one in person. So you might check that out as well. If you're in the Atlanta area, you can go to the in-person one, or you can be with us virtually in the other course. So we also have an in-person retreat coming up in September. So all that's going on. So check out the website. We'll be here next Wednesday for Mindfulness for the Moment, and hope that you'll be here as well, or join us whenever you can. Feel free to chat something or unmute and say goodbye or whatever. And I'm happy to stay on as well if you want to chat for a moment or two.
Thank you, Mark.
Thanks, Michael. It's good to see you.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you.
This was wonderful. Thank you, Mark.
Bye.
Claire, good to see you.
Great to see you.
Hope you're doing well, Murray. Mama,
Good. Thank you.
Mama Murray. Yeah,
Yeah, trying to
yeah.
manage.
You're trying to manage. Yes. Yeah. One day at a time, one moment at a time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Bye.
Hey, Allison, your Camino gathering, is that in person? Or
Yes, it
oh,
is. Any chance that you have a trip up here planned?
I do, but it's a little bit later in September. It's at the end of September.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, it would have been great to have you anyway.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah, all different. It's funny. We started thinking all these different people that had done the Camino recently that, and, just it's fascinating how, anybody that's experienced it, and I sense this from you too, like there's just that connection between people and wanting to know about, hear the other person's experience. So I'm like, let's just